Hello YouTube, this is the Political Cuttlefish here, and in this video I'd like to talk about my theory as to why this whole social justice warrior movement, like this whole Tumblr-y, SJW type activism has become very popular, particularly among very wealthy people, like very wealthy young people. Essentially, I think it actually helps people not focus on their privilege, which seems like you might hear that and think, what? Like, the movement's all about checking your privilege. But one privilege which I almost never see these social justice warrior Tumblr types bring up is class privilege, which is just so huge. Like, the fact that thousands, I think maybe even millions, I haven't checked lately, of people, they're not sure if they're going to eat today. Like, starving to death is a very real possibility to them in the world. Like, there are people who don't have access to clean water, and hundreds of thousands of people die a year because of that. And I think for a lot of people, it's kind of hard to confront how you have all this stuff and you have so many opportunities. Like, we have Xboxes, we have all our conveniences, and so many people can't even afford the basic necessities. And I think that in a way, the social justice movement helps people not think about that, or at least the modern Tumblr-y social justice movement, because by focusing on superficially checking your privilege and microaggressions, it distracts people from really thinking about how so many people can barely get through life. Like, so many people can't even afford to go to a doctor when they're sick. Like, so many people in the world can't even can barely afford to live. And I think that's something when you're a very privileged person, very economically privileged, and you have all this first world upper class privilege, it's a hard thing to live with. It's a hard thing to know that there's so many people who have so little. And I think the social justice movement that's going on now, it helps people not think about that, because they keep thinking about microaggressions. They keep thinking about checking their privilege. They talk about which actor is playing which movies, which celebrity made an offensive joke. They talk about being triggered by tweets, and they just focus on this stuff, and they put that stuff at the forefront. They don't really have to think about just how privileged they actually are in the world. Even people who aren't claiming to be oppressed in that movement, the white straight males who admit that they're privileged, they very rarely talk about their class privilege. They just sort of superficially check their privilege, because really spreading the wealth around and really doing that, really making a difference, really making it so people can live, and really just establishing some sort of economic security for everyone would be a huge undertaking and very difficult. And it's much easier to just superficially blog about checking your privilege and microaggressions and making cutesy YouTube videos, kind of like I'm doing now, so maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but that's not the point right now. And one kind of exhibit I'll tell you is, I think a lot of the time when this really started to explode was just a little after the Occupy Wall Street movement started, when people were really starting to talk about economic inequality. Then the Occupy Wall Street movement was actually sort of derailed by these social justice types who just wanted to talk about microaggressions. They didn't want to stay on track with economic inequality. They wanted to talk about microaggressions. They wanted to make it so inclusive that it pretty much became directionless. And I'm not saying that there was this corporate conspiracy to take down Occupy Wall Street. That would be ridiculous in my opinion. I'm just saying that I think by allowing people to focus on these superficial privileges, I know I've used the word superficial a lot, but by allowing people to focus on that, it lets people ignore some the really core privileges in life, just how privileged they are to have an education, have have definite access to food, like to know you're going to have access to food and water and healthcare. And that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear what you think about it. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, comment, share it around. Thank you. This has been the Political Cuttlefish out.